everyone, and welcome to a very special trade deadline edition of On the Bench with Columbus Wired. I'm Dave Seaman. The Columbus Blue Jackets making a minor splash over the last 4 or 5 days. Since we were with you last, of course, Antoine Vermette and Jeff Carter were both moved. Since then, a couple waiver wire transactions have gone down as the Jackets have picked up Daryl Boyce from Toronto and lost Grant Klitzum to Winnipeg. The only move that was made on trade deadline by General Manager Scott Howson was sending Sammy Paulson to Vancouver. And we bring in Justin Boggs, who, Justin, you've pretty much lived with the Blue Jackets here the last 4 or 5 days, including a trip to Pittsburgh. What has your perspective been over the last, couple days?
Well, I think the Grant Klitzum move was a direct result of we've seen an emergence of John Moore, a young defender, and we've also seen, of course, Jack Johnson come in, and Klitzum was essentially expendable. And, Winnipeg picked him up. Claude Noel, the coach there, is very familiar with him and likes him and brought him in. So, Columbus was able to expend him, and Winnipeg can use him for their playoff push. That's the old Atlanta Thrashers program, and they haven't been in the playoffs for a long time. So that's what I take from that. Sammy Paulson, UFA at the end of the season. Scott Howson said yesterday during his press conference that he is not going to re-sign any UFAs until after the season. So certainly there's some uncertainty with Sammy Paulson. So Vancouver, of course, they're in the midst of a playoff run as well. They may go deep in the playoffs once again. Sammy Paulson's a good fit there in Vancouver.
And probably the biggest news over the last, 2 or 3 days isn't necessarily who has left or who has come in, but it's who hasn't left. Rick Nash, the Jackets captain, is still a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Nash was not traded. No deal was made, but there has been some drama. General Manager Scott Howson announcing right after the trade deadline that it was actually Rick Nash came to management and said, hey, you know what? I want to be traded. Well, 24 hours later, after the morning skate on Tuesday, Nash said, whoa, that's not necessarily the case. He wanted to try to help the franchise, and if that meant trading him to get multiple pieces, that he would accept a trade.
Right. We thought yesterday going into the press conference, it was a lot of us in the media room were joking about how quiet it was. It was a matter of going to the press conference, plugging in a few quotes, and calling it a day. And then Howson immediately, from that prepared statement, said, in regards to Nash, he asked us for a trade. That sort of dropped a bombshell on all of us. We all thought that it was management who went to Nash and said, hey, we're considering a trade for you. Where are you willing to move? It's a very weird situation for the Blue Jackets at this point, and they're really in a no-win situation. This team is having their worst season in franchise history. Nash, of course, has been a big part of this team for a long time. And frankly, it's a bad situation for him, too, because apparently he only asks to go to a few teams. So it's like, okay, get me out of here, but I'm only willing to go to a few teams right now. I don't think that's how it works. You have a no-trade clause. If you're willing to waive it, great, but you can't go to management and say, I want to go somewhere else and then call the shots. It really did not help Columbus in that respect.
Well, the interesting thing about it is when Scott Howson said that, I'm sitting at work on the desk, I'm reading the Twitter feed, and it's like, Nash requests trade immediately. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we have another Adam Foote on our hands. But really, when you stop and listen to what Rick Nash had to say, he's looking for the best of the team, and he's trying to add, he's trying to say, hey, you know what? I have the most value on this team. Move me. See what you can get for it. And I think, Scott Howson's saying, it's a high price to get Rick Nash. Rick Nash is an elite player in the National Hockey League, and he is somebody who we're not going to just trade for nothing.
But you have to read between the lines, Dave. What Rick Nash said was that it would be best for Columbus and his career if he moved on. Now, if you can take that however you want, but let's put it this way. He wanted to go to a winner in a city that he feels comfortable in, okay? And you can't really blame him. He's at the age where, he's at his peak right now. He's 27 years old. He's in probably his last really big contract. He's going to be, when you look at his contract, he's going to be 33 years old when his contract expires in 2018. He wants to go find a winning team. He thought that winning team was going to be here in Columbus. 2 years later, this team has regressed. So you can't really blame him.
And we know that the New York Rangers was the big team that really pushed hard to get Rick Nash. We know that Nash rejected a trade from with the LA Kings. He didn't want to go to Los Angeles. Howson said he talked to every team in the league, but moving forward, there's two sides of this. Rick Nash wants to play for a winner, and I think we all realize that while the Blue Jackets had a horrible season, we're talking about 285 man games lost to injury. You're talking about underperforming performers, and probably most specifically, we're talking about poor goaltending. If the Blue Jackets could turn that around, Rick Nash could still be a member of this team.
Well, when you look at this season, two things have gone wrong. Goaltending, and also you look at Jeff Carter. He did not give his 100% effort. Guys in the locker room pretty much immediately came out and said he didn't want to be here. Of course, you remember back in July, it took a long time for the Blue Jackets to be able to bring him to Columbus, to be able to talk to management, be able to talk to the coaching staff, and be able to talk to the media. So that brought a toxic locker room immediately. Never really clicked with Jeff Carter and Rick Nash, and he had a long time on his contract, and I think Columbus is happy they were able to get the guy they were able to get and a first-round pick for Jeff Carter. But you've already started blown things up. Right now, you only have one true scorer on this team if you keep Nash, which is a very big question. I think Nash is going to be moved over the offseason. Howson said yesterday he was asked about the All-Star game, and where is this team going to go forward? Are they going to have a legitimate All-Star when they host the All-Star game? He said, well, we're going to have to find other All-Stars.
Well, and you talk about that, that's been, we talk about the shortcomings of this team, and it's always been goaltending. It used to be defense. It seems like Scott Howson's really been able to firm up the defense here over the last couple weeks and through the season with waiver wire pickups, trades, and such. But clearly, if you trade Nash, or even if you don't trade Nash, you're still 2 or 3 role players away from being a successful team.
But you need to have scores. You need to have guys, you improve the back end, you improve the defense, you improve the goaltending, but you also have to be able to put the puck in the net. And you look at this lineup right now without Jeff Carter, without Rick Nash, who's going to provide that scoring? Vermette was a good secondary scorer. He's gone now.
But what did he do this year?
He had a big slump. Absolutely. Umberger is a guy who's provides secondary scoring. Well, he slumped as well. So you look at who has to step up, it's going to take a really big jump up for guys like Ryan Johansson, for Cam Atkinson. These are the guys who are going to be the mainstays over the next 3 to 5 years here in Columbus. It's going to be a big jump up to ask them to be your primary scorers next season.
Well, moving forward, the Blue Jackets have 20 games left in the season. As you say, you play for pride, but you're also playing for jobs. There are plenty of unrestricted and still restricted free agents that are looking for or are playing for jobs next year.
Absolutely. So you look at the UFAs, you look at a guy like Chris Sanford, who is battling just to find a job at the NHL next year. Same with a guy like Derek McKenzie. It's kind of, you hate to say it, but you have to kind of watch those bottom tier guys who are just vying for the just the privilege to play in the National Hockey League, because right now, they're unrestricted free agents. You have a lot of guys who are locked in, and unfortunately, you might not get their top effort heading into the offseason.
Well, the Jackets continue the regular season games in Colorado and Phoenix this weekend. The team returns home for 2 next week with Phoenix and Los Angeles, the return of Jeff Carter.
Be interesting to see how the crowd and how the team responds to Jeff Carter.
All right, so that wraps things up from now. We look forward to seeing you again on the next edition. For Justin, I'm Dave. So long, everyone.